Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. Everyone hears us or hear me well here? Yes. Do we see some? Oh, Alvin, thank you for the thumbs up. Ilam, thank you. Do we hear from maybe Anna, Manish, Nabila? Oh, here. We're just going to wait 2 more minutes. There's some people coming in to the session. Hey, Nina joining us. So everyone sees my screen, our presentation? Yes, perfect. So I would like to welcome everyone, a warm welcome for today's session. It's the first session of our webinar series for the wonderful project. I'll tell you a bit more about it. What is it that the objectives for it? My name is Gabriela Rodriguez. I'm from the team here at Impact Up Stockholm. And today's webinar session is called Investment Ready, Growing Your Startup from Ground and Up. A bit about Impact Up first, if you haven't heard more or less what is it that the work that we do. We are part innovation lab, part community center, and part business center as well, because we support social enterprise entrepreneurs all the way from idea to scale. We are part of this global network. We have 120 plus locations all over the world, and we have locations in 70 plus countries. And everything that we do, all the different programs, the entrepreneurial communities that we build, we do it with a diversity and inclusion lens as well, because we believe that people and planet go first. So I'll be your moderator for today's session. And as mentioned before to our dear speakers that are here today, I'm genuinely excited because this is actually the first time I'm coming back from my parental leave. So it's the first webinar I'm moderating after that. So this topic for me is very dear of how we can empower more female entrepreneurs, young women as well, when it comes to creating new things, when it comes to putting their ideas to make their ideas tangible, have the right tools, the right financial tools, education, resources that are needed. So that's why this project that this webinar is part of this project that it's called the Wonderful Project, and it stands for Growth Model for Green, Digital, and Resilient Entrepreneurship for European Young People. It's a mouthful of big sentence. That's why we shorten it up to a very positive version, that is the Wonderful Project. So this is co-founded by the European Union, and we are doing this work across here. And we are doing this work with different partners across Europe. And we are targeting, as mentioned, is young women between 18 and 30 years old, youth workers and youth leaders. And even though the scope is like business advice and how we can support early stage startups, the lens of the project in itself is for women that want to enter in the cosmetic industry, actually. But the topics of today is very, how do you say, universal. This is needed for anyone who wants to build their own company. And so, yes, as mentioned, here are the general objectives of the project. And here I want to show you, yes, so because this is co-founded by the EU, every single activity that we have been doing with this initiative is being done across borders with our partner network. So we are the version in Sweden. Then we have other webinars that are happening as well in Belgium, in Turkey, in Greece, and in Austria. And here you can take a look at our partners that are located in these countries. So now to the good stuff. So the idea of why, besides us, this network, this partnership or this consortium that we have created is to connect all our different networks in these different countries. And I'm very excited about our speakers for this two webinar series for today and for tomorrow. So here you can take a look at our wonderful speakers, our 6 powerhouse women that are going to be leading the sessions for today and tomorrow. So in short, general objectives for today, we hope that we are able to equip with tools for you to grow, to finance, if you're in the cosmetic industry, to finance your cosmetic startup. To introduce some concepts for being investment ready, to clarify the different financial options for early stage entrepreneurs, and to facilitate connections to support networks, experienced founders, and organizations offering financing guidance. So these are our general objectives. We hope that you are able to, or we hope that by the end of this session, we're able to establish some of these ones, to create some clarity for some of these concepts. Today, we go here. Today's agenda. So now I made a quick intro of what is it that we're going to be speaking about. We're going to meet the speakers, our 3 wonderful speakers. We're going to hear from them a bit about their background, their work, and straight to what is it that they're going to be speaking about in terms of these general objectives. And then we're going to have a panel of discussion with the 3 of them so we can answer some of these burning questions that we have. We're going to bring the audience, all of you in, so you are able to, in the meantime, of course, on the panel and everything, if there's concepts or information that you hear that you don't want to miss that question, we encourage that you write them on the chat. And when it comes the time of the Q&A, we are going to address them. And at the end, we're just going to have our checkout, reflections, and some wrap-up. What I want you to get out of this session as well is that this is conversational, is an intimate conversation that we're going to have, meaning that we're a small group. So what is nice about this is that if there's immediate questions that you have, also feel free to open your mic or raise your hands, and we can address it at the moment. So everyone, shake off your stress or whatever is holding you this morning. And I want you to meet the speakers of today. So with us, we have Cristina Söderberg. She's the strategic advisor at Skill Insight Sweden, and she's the president of Business Professional Women in Stockholm. So she's going to bring insights into what investors are truly looking for and how founders can build trust. So what does it really mean to be investment ready? So Cristina is going to board that topic. And then we have Petra Szeszula. She's Dr. Petra. She's the founder of BrainZell and a life science entrepreneur who knows firsthand what it takes to pitch a vision and secure early traction. So she's going to bring the founder's perspective. So how can one craft their pitch and raise early traction? And last but not least, we have Ekelund. She's the deputy CEO at Sting, and she's a co-founder of Teemyco. She'll walk us through how to approach your financials and avoid some common mistakes. And so everything financials, Charlotte is going to speak about, and how to talk numbers with confidence. And I want to mention something earlier that it was raised, is that this conversation is part of closing this whole circle of networks and support system. So Charlotte mentioned that Petra was one of the people or entrepreneurs that she advised through her buildup of her company. So we can hear about that in a few minutes more. So yes, with that we start. We are going to start with you, Cristina. if you are able to introduce us to this concept of what it means. First, present yourself, like some few minutes, and then this concept of what it means to be investment ready.
Yeah, thank you, Gabriela. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
Yes, thumbs up for that.
Yeah,
Yes,
because
yes.
sometimes I have problems with this microphone. But good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and to contribute to this awesome project. Before I share the insights I've gathered from my entrepreneurial journey, especially around the investment readiness, and before I leave you with the key takeaway that has shaped my company, I want to begin by giving you, let's say, a glimpse into the person standing here in front of you today. So I would say let's start not with the company built, but the journey that built me. At heart, I've always been a very curious and reflective soul. I'm both a thinker and a builder. And my career spans over 30 plus years. Oh my God, time flies. Crossing continents, industries, boardrooms, and even stepping onto the TEDx arena as a public speaker coach. Over the years, I would say I worn so many hats across all areas of business, thanks to a rich mix of disciplines, product of my curiosity as my background, plus a few, I would say, unexpected paths I followed simply out of curiosity and passion, I would say. But please don't worry. I am not about to recite my whole resume. I know you will not get a quiz later. I'm just starting with this because it's a key part of my story, the story about the gap I found and the insight that I would say marked the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey or my path as a founder. You see, in all spaces, and we're talking now about 30 years plus, I've worked in, I began noticing something deeply human. So many people were holding back. Ideas left unspoken, feedback withheld, brilliant minds staying quiet, voices silenced, could be by fear, doubt, mostly limiting beliefs. And that hit me over and over. But it also led to this, this fire in me, a lifelong quest to understand why. So I would say that looking back, I see that every chapter of my career, every single moment, every shift in the identity I adopted in every single position was doing something important for me. Preparing the ground, preparing, I would say, the soil for that little seed I would one day plant, that seed of my entrepreneurial journey. So I would say that seed was quietly planted in 2015, 10 years ago. But wait a minute. There was no at all a dramatic leap. I didn't quit everything overnight or chase a big spotlight. Instead, I would say that I chose a very different path. One with intention and tons of patience. And I'm not a patient girl. So already there, I would say that I will develop a lot going into the mindset of being patient. because I knew I wasn't just starting a business, because I was building a solution. So it took time. I took my time. I reflected, I tested, I listened, and slowly I began to connect dots, between all the disciplines I had explored during my career journey, and each one brought one piece of that puzzle. So that's when my little company was born, in a very little scale. Not with noise or something like, wow, now I'm started and announcing this, but very quiet determination. It started as an experiment. I used to call it my pilot, but now I know it was not at all. So I built it on the side, I would say in the margins of my days. I balance my full-time role as an employee, slowly stepping into the identity of the entrepreneur I am today. It wasn't fast, it wasn't flashy, but it was deeply aligned with something I believed in. And for me, that made all the difference. So now, let me take you into the world of funding, but not the kind you hear about in pitch competitions or investor meetings. Here's my perspective. Remember, I'm telling you about my story. And here's my truth. The toughest investor I ever had to face, guess who was? Myself. And every single day, listen up, I had to pitch to the most relentless, skeptical, overthinking mind I knew, my own. So I questioned everything, and yet, day by day, pitch by pitch, something began to shift. I stopped just presenting the idea to myself, and I remember I released the why behind the why. There is two different perspectives here. It's not just a why. There is a why behind that why. And I slowly, that pitch and the person delivering it became one. You need to be one with your idea. And during this time, I lived in two worlds. By day, I held on to the salary of a steady paycheck as an employee. And during my spare time, my quiet hours, I was just poured myself into my little company, raising my own capital and building from the ground up. Until one day, I realized something that changed everything. If I keep my soul, I told myself, if I keep my soul between comfort with this employment and the possibility of this new thing I'm creating, my little company, neither will thrive. And that's the moment I decided to stop combining. So I made a decision, and not at all out of impulse, because I told you it was a very reflective period of time, but it was out of clarity. It was so clear. I chose to close this remarkable chapter in my corporate career on purpose, and I stepped fully into this, I would call, fire of building something new. And not because it was easy, because it was not at all, but because I had finally convinced the most important investor of all, me, that immediately, that became the official day I gave my full energy to Skill Inside Sweden. not just as a business, but as a calling I could no longer ignore. So in business, I would say that we talk about investment readiness. It is measured with numbers, projections. Pitch deck has to follow certain rules, of course. And yes, those things matter a lot. Otherwise, you don't get the investors there. But here's what I come to understand. And once again, this is my journey. I'm bringing you behind the curtains of my entrepreneurial journey. Readiness isn't one single thing. There's no universal checklist. I believe there are multiple visions of readiness. And that's why I always talk about this part, multiple visions of readiness. There's something I want to tell you so it becomes clear. And it's that if you're going to walk this path as an entrepreneur, you need to be ready on more than just the things that I mentioned before. You need your idea ready, not just as a concept, but as a deep conviction you stand behind. You need your business ready to meet the world with clarity, structure, and value. You need your mind ready. And this one, oh my God, this can play you a lot of tricks. And why you need to have that mind ready? It's because you need to face doubt without allowing it to define you. You need your heart ready to face rejection because it will be rejection. And I'm not talking now only about investors, but it will be rejection when you are trying to put out the business idea and you have customers in front of you. And still, when you have that heart ready, you face rejection, but still you keep it open. And most of all, you need that spirit, that fire ready to stand alone. At times when, with your belief intact, until your people find you. So before I ever asked for support, I became my own most loyal, stubborn, and relentless investor. And I funded my growth with something stronger than money. And for me, that is conviction. I truly believe in the value of my idea long before I was visible for anyone else. So I protected my vision fiercely. And I chose my purpose over the ease of comfort, I would say. Not to stop living, not at all, but to finally live fully in alignment, in meaning, in purpose. And that to me is the very foundation of true investment readiness. So,
Cristina.
Yes.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I'm just trying to be mindful of our timeline. But I think from what we're hearing from you is that to be investment ready and how you really exacerbated the fact that, okay, I need to trust myself and I need to trust my product or my vision. And in a way, those kind of things are smelled by investors as well, or others. Like if you are truly, how do you say, you truly believe in what is it that you want to build.
Yes.
Because it's more about not the product that you're building in itself, but the person behind it. Like what is it that the person is doing, or what is the drive of this person that is behind whatever is being built. I I mean, this is, I think, like a bit of what we're getting about the passion behind when you started your own company. And we want to hear more about that. We're going to do it during the panel of discussion when we have like these key questions of how everyone is addressing these different topics from the perspective. But we're going now with, we move forward with Petra. So she can briefly mention just a bit about your background, Petra, and then give us that founder's perspective as well about crafting your pitch and then when you are raising this early traction.
Hello, hello everyone. Nice to be here. So I am Petra, originally from Czech Republic, and I came to Sweden for my research. I came to Karolinska Institute to do research on, for example, brain cancer. And here I realized that I really need some better tools for my research, and I looked for them, and that's how I found my co-founder, who is also a scientist from Karolinska, and we worked on let's say some research, and we realized that what we have in our hands, this innovative tool, is so good that we need to bring it to the world, and that's why we decided to found a company. But I also have studied business and economics before I became a scientist. So I dared to try it, let's say. And our company is science-based. So we had quite a long and heavy journey before the investment to actually do R&D, so research and development, and bring the technology to a readiness when it's possible to even start talking with customers. And what we do, we help find new medicines for also depression, schizophrenia, epilepsy, basically any type of brain disease that we can think of. And we are, I hope I'm not bringing off. We are doing this by testing new medicines in human mini brains, which we derive from skin cells. So with the new technology, you can take just a little biopsy of your skin or even just blood sample, and we can take it to the lab and create brain tissue from your cells. And we can create this from anyone on the planet, any patient, and that's where we are aiming, let's say, find new, better treatments for patients with brain disorders. And I want to share a bit about the company, how the company developed, and so keep in mind that this is then like science-based company. So this probably doesn't apply to companies that you are thinking of founding. So some things might be faster for you and might not require as much money. But so I would say that this, like, we can call ourselves deep tech. So this science-based deep tech companies, they usually have very long time until they develop something that can actually be shown to the world. So for me and for my co-founder, we studied at the university. We started with research at Karolinska Institute, and then we kind of parted ways. He was doing something else and I was unemployed, and this is when I founded the company. And I felt, okay, I'm right after maternity leave, and Sweden is a great country where you actually can start and build even science-based company relatively easy, or it's even possible. In other countries, often it's not. So I felt, okay, this is the time in my life when I will try it. And if I fail, then okay, I will never try it again. But this is the opportunity that I have to take. And then we used a lot of help from incubators. Either most of the first incubators were actually regional incubators, like Uppsala Innovation Center, because the incubators that are at universities, they usually require that you are a student or employee, and we haven't been employees at that time. And then we applied for grants. So soft funding is always good when you start building your company. Try to get soft funding, so grants or other type of support. And there is a great innovation agency in Sweden, Vinnova, which supports all kinds of different companies. So it's just enough to have innovative idea. It doesn't have to be science-based. So that's where we started. And then we collaborated with universities and with researchers, because to build some, to build human mini brains and test new medicines for brain is not exactly easy. So we needed this support from the scientific and research community. We also had support, for example, from AstraZeneca, who have a mentorship program. And I bet in your areas of or industries, there are corporates, let's say companies that do have similar mentorship programs. Like, for example, L'Oreal. Now I see that this is about cosmetics. L'Oreal is great. They give out grants. They even give out grants to women, specifically female founders. And what I heard is they have a relatively, let's say, big network or possibilities or programs where startups can actually participate. And then we went to incubator / accelerator Sting. If you want to raise money, just find a great coach who will tell you what to do. This is definitely the fastest way how to do it. So we had that support in Sting, and especially with Charlotte. But all the way until even today, we keep applying for soft funding, for grants, European funds or European grants, and so on. And one, let's say, important part in all this, there was kind of already one little valley of death when we didn't have grants, or the grants are usually very specific to certain project or part of the project. But certain things in the company you just cannot finance from grants. For example, when you file patent applications that you have to finance yourself. So in that, we had a huge help from ALMI. ALMI has a system of innovation loans, and the first one is relatively accessible to anyone who has an innovative idea. And that helped us to get forward and become investor ready, because for us as a science-based company, it's important to show the investors that we actually have something patentable, or that the patents are already filed or even granted. And then in the end of this journey last summer, we were able to raise first equity round from investors, and our lead investor was Industrifonden, which usually invests in, let's say, deep tech or science-based companies. But not always. So other industries also have a chance. And then we had a couple of angel syndicates and smaller VCs in this round. And now we are preparing for a next round. And just to tell you some specific things that maybe you can do already now. It's really important to connect with people and build network. That's even if your company is just in the stage of an idea, you can. It's never too late to start networking and ask people for help. Especially in Sweden, it's the support that you can get from incubators is tremendous. So find it. That's your fastest ticket to success. To become part, or at least somehow talk with the coaches from incubators. And then if you cannot get customers tomorrow, like if your product is a bit more complicated than developing an app, think of soft funding. As I said, Vinnova is a great example, or this is the link to European funding. And this is also something that at any stage of your company, I use it even now, and I will use it in the future. This is something that KTH developed, and it's a guide for anyone to like evaluate their own idea or company. How far did we get? And these 6 let's say areas are extremely important, and you have to proceed or grow in all of them to be able to reach the market. So I would recommend you to find at KTH innovation readiness level, and you can read more about the system that they are using. So how do you fund your startup? As I said, soft funding is a great start, because that doesn't dilute your shares, so you can still be 100% owner of your company, which is important when you then decide to go the VC journey and go through investment rounds, because investors want to see first you will be able to have majority in the company several rounds later, because what investors invest in the early stages is the people. It's you that they invest in, and they know or experience shows that it's the founder who has the best chance to bring the company to success. So that's why they want you to be in the steering position and have enough power, enough decision power with let's say majority of shares, or more than 50%. So that's one thing. Another thing, you as a founder, 10 years after sweating blood, you also would like to have something out of this. And when you, for example, exit and sell the company, maybe you don't become a billionaire, but you should, sure as hell, should be able to justify why did you lose everything of your personal life in the last 10 years. And in the beginning, you will not have a great salary. So what you should make sure of is that when you sell the company, or the company is, let's say, exited, you have enough shares to be able to participate on the reward, and that you don't only hand it to the investors. And revenues are the best funding, definitely. For some companies like deep tech, it doesn't really apply, because you cannot sell like a nuclear reactor without having it built and certified. So it takes time. So, but even for deep tech companies, it's good to have some early customer traction. And that, I think, brings me to what you can do, what you can pitch and show investors as early traction. And this really depends on the type of the company that you are building, or the solution that you are, or product that you are building. But so of course, the best is to have customers, but if you cannot reach having customers, you should think about what increases the value of the company, because that's what investors are ultimately about. They want to sell the company in the future. So they want the company to become 100 times more valuable than it's today. So if you don't have customers, maybe you can show that you have some very good promising results from certain pilot study, for example. You can show that you have a patentable idea or that you filed a patent. You can show that you have some prototypes that work, that you have some, let's say, you have done some testing with users and the users like it, or the users understand how to use it. That's another thing. You can also go out and talk with your potential customer, with your users or stakeholders in the area. Let's say if you are developing a healthcare app, you would go to patients or doctors and hear their feedback. Would they use it? Would it be interesting for them? Is it easy to understand for them? Is it easy to use? Or in our area, for example, key opinion leaders, so some renowned professors, do they trust the solution that you are building, that the solution will actually solve some problems? These are all examples of early traction that you can get even if you don't have customers right away. And then on building the pitch, again, I used a coach, like a public speaking coach. I can tell you their names. Andrew Henningen is one, and the second is Jenny Lindblad. These two, just reach out to them and even pay a couple of hours of coaching. It really pays off. It pays off for me. And when you are to, let's say, get investors' interest, you have the first 10 seconds. And what you should think of is how can they relate to you? How can we relate to each other? What do we have in common? And what do we have in common in terms of the solution or the problem? The best is if you go for some instinctive emotions, like don't overplay it, but something that speaks to them. Like, you know, in the end, what works best is some really primeval subconscious instincts that if you manage to, let's say, play them or hit them in the right way, you will definitely pick their interest. And the idea with pitch is to be remembered. Of course, you cannot say everything in 3 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, but the goal is to be remembered. And yeah, just so they start talking about you. And this is something that I learned from Charlotte, and I can say, oh, how much it is true. Investors talk. They talk to each other throughout Europe. At least this is my experience. I'm sure it's the same in the USA. So you can also play it. It's like with the news. Like you tell it to one, and so be careful what you say. But for sure, everyone will know sooner or later about it. And what else?
Petra, thank you so much. I think you really addressed your role here, like about like, crafting your pitch and raising early traction. If we do like, we flip it around, like raising early traction regarding like all the different like funding lines that one can think of, everything from public funding, private, mastering your craft, making sure that renowned professors take a look at your product, making sure that different investors know about your product as well, and how it's so important to, at the ground level, everyone is very primal, and it's like, what is it? It's understanding also your investor, or like who you are pitching to as well. Like, what is their interest? What is their area of expertise? What is it that in your product or your company you're going to highlight more for who? But it's really inspiring, Petra. I mean, congratulations on that journey. We can tell for the way that you speak about it is that you're really, really have been since day one there, and how it was mentioned before, like on the early traction, investors and whoever is like backing your company, they want the founder to be fully involved and have that firsthand of everything, how it's molded, because they really are the ones that truly know the product, or truly know the vision of it and the potential. And then there's where we need some help, okay, if I want to make it grow, where is it that I'm lacking? Where are my blind spots? And who do I need to speak with or bring on board? So that's how we move to Charlotte, actually. Charlotte or Charlotte?
Just to check, how many minutes do I get? Because we're over time. So
yes, we are a bit over time. But what I'm thinking is that because we're having a panel of discussion afterwards, and what every one of you has been speaking, I think it's part of this, how do you say, like discussion that we were gonna have. So for the panel, we're gonna we had like 4 suggested questions. We're gonna shorten them to a couple of those, and we want to hear from you, Charlotte. We can do it for we have 10 minutes for you, if it's okay, at 12.
I'll try to keep it shorter than 10.
So Charlotte will be financials, talk all things financials, and how we can talk our numbers confidently.
Hi, everyone. So first of all, my background, I actually started in the fast-moving consumer goods industry. So I studied business, so that's a lot more close to cosmetics than I have been the past couple of years. I worked in strategy, marketing, and then I moved over after about 7 or 8 years into recruitment for 2 years. And then my entrepreneurial journey started in 2019 when I applied to Antler, which is where I found my co-founder. And I didn't do the Cristina slowly building up route. I really jumped. I resigned and I jumped. And I didn't know the difference between front end and back end. And all of a sudden, I found myself being CEO of a software company. So that was interesting. What we did was virtual offices, so a little bit like The Sims, but for colleagues. And we founded this company 3 months before the global pandemic hit. So I was CEO there for 5 years. After that, 2 years in the board. And I think I didn't count, but I'm pretty sure I did over 500 investor pitches during the time. We had 3 venture capital firms with us and a lot of angels, and we did raise more than 5 million euros. We had a team of 25 people across 9 countries, and I really saw both the goods and the bads. I was, of course, making a lot of mistakes. After 5 years of being CEO there and life happened, I didn't want to be CEO anymore. So my co-founder took over and I joined Sting, which is the original sort of accelerator and incubator where I met Petra, who was one of the cases. But there over the past 2 years, I left in May, so I'm not there anymore. But I came in as head of investor relations, so sort of taking care of the 2,000 plus investors that they have tightly knit to them. But quite quickly, I realized that it's not just about doing intros between founders and investors. It's much more to make sure founders are investor ready. So I built up an investor readiness program, and Petra's case was one of the first that I got to work with. But I've, over the past 2 years, followed about 80 startups fundraising and helped them close their rounds or make sure that they somehow survive. And that's been quite a mix of companies. It's been hardware and deep tech. It's been software. It's been climate or health related, or some of them very scientific that I don't even understand what exactly it is they do, but I understand how to package it and which investors to go for and which investors not to go for, which is equally important. And then my third role, my third hat is I don't talk about this a lot because I'm not very rich, so I don't have a lot of money, but I have angel invested in, I think, 6 companies. And my role there as an angel investor is obviously, I try to be the investor that I would have wanted to have, but it's very different depending on the company. Some need help with the fundraising, some really want to balance product strategy, some are a lot more about recruitment, which I have a background in as well. So it really depends on what the founders need, what I help the companies with. So the brief I got for today is how to talk about numbers, which is my least favorite part in all of it, but sure, I'll do it. Because my experience is that it's not actually about 700 or 2,564. It's about what explains the numbers, what are the drivers behind. So before, the questions that I got to prepare were very budget focused, and I would first of all want to challenge the questions. Sorry about that. It's not just about your budget.
Do it, yes.
So you need a lot more than just your budget. Budget is one document you need, but if I can give you sort of 3 documents that you want to prepare. I mean, I think Petra mentioned a lot of good things. The part that Petra spoke about is more my expertise about how to strategize around if it is fundraising or soft funding, and how to plan it. There is actually a step-by-step process that you can tick off to land around, which I made up myself based on 5 rounds and non-scientific data, but 5 years of fundraising. But the 3 documents you need is, first of all, you need a simulation, a round simulator, your dilution, the round size, and the valuation, where you play around with how much are you willing to give away in terms of equity if you are fundraising. Now, we're not talking about soft funding, we're talking about fundraising. And my strong recommendation is never to give away more than 17% in one round, just because that way you can do 1 to 3 rounds and still have that majority that Petra was talking about. That's very important. With up until Series A, you should have majority in the founding team and the options pool. Secondly, you need another document, which is the more longer term perspective, which Petra talked about. Like, if we do 1 round now, how long will that last? And what does that mean? Do we need another round in 1.5 years? And how big would that need to be in order for, so you need to sort of calculate that dilution until the day at least you get profitable. Because as soon as you're profitable, that's the magic word. Then you're not raising because you have to survive. Then you're raising because you want to accelerate growth. And that's a huge, huge difference, because then you don't have this constant sort of, which I lived with during my SaaS startup, the revenue wasn't big enough to keep building a product of that caliber in that pace that the global pandemic required. So if we had just been profitable, things would have looked a lot different, but we didn't charge enough per user. So then that means every little mistake you do, it can sort of make your company fail, or every wrong hire you need to cut them really fast, because it's like your team is sitting in a boat and there's a leakage somewhere and the entire boat can sink. So you need to cut people. So look at it from multiple perspectives and timeline, and when are you profitable? And then the third part, which is the part that I've been asked to dig into, are the financial projections, i.e. budget. So a couple of tips and a couple of thoughts around that. And this is obviously based on, 100 startups where I've seen what they do wrong, or what they don't do, or what they are afraid of doing. So it's a little bit based on evidence the past 2 to 5 years. But first of all, I think you can think of it, there are 2 different versions of your budget or financial projections. One of them is the presentation slide, where I think it's absolutely enough to have a quarterly forecast. It buys you a little bit of flexibility, because if you have certain targets, a certain quarter, that means if you don't get that distribution to happen in February, well, maybe it's okay if that happens in March still. But then, of course, when you come to the stage where you've been pitching, they've looked at the deck and they want to drill down in the numbers and they ask for your data room or for your budget, then you might want to have a month-by-month projection. Having that said, it's not about the numbers. It's about the assumption behind the numbers, because no one can comment on whether your numbers are right or wrong. All we all know is that they're wrong. That's just for a fact. I've never seen a startup hit their numbers ever. If they hit it like 1 month, it's a coincidence, but not going to be hit month by month. So what investors do want to discuss with you is to understand, how have you built them up? And now that I know that this is a cosmetics related context, it gets a lot easier to comment on how to build it, because before I didn't know the crowd at all. So it really depends. But to give you, I often get the question, or used to get the question, how do I build the budget? Well, the cost side is pretty easy. Usually what drives the cost is people. There you need to decide, are they going to be hired or are they going to be consultants? And then it's like all kinds of cloud and SaaS services. That's usually the two big ones. Maybe you have an office rent as well. But the cost side is pretty straightforward. And there people go, oh, but how do we know how many people we can hire? Well, you can do different scenarios as well. You can do like, if we get 5 million in investment, then we will do it like this. If we only get 1 million in investment, we'll do it like this. So that's totally fine. But the cost side is usually not the tricky one. The tricky one is the revenue side, because you have no clue by when you'll start charging how much to whom and how much people will be paying. But, and this is where I come back to this, it's not the numbers that are important. Well, of course, the numbers matter because they show a little bit your pace and your ambition. But what you really want to be able to explain, just like when I was heading strategy at Coca-Cola here in Sweden, it was never about the numbers. It was the numbers with like cut in from Excel into PowerPoint with a comment bubble saying, this is when we launch Coca-Cola Life, and therefore the volumes will develop like this. So, it's what happens that quarter or month that matters. So I call this growth drivers or assumptions. And my biggest tip is always, when you make projections in I think we talked about this as well, Petra, like in the first tab in your Google Sheets or Excel, whatever you use, you state your assumptions. And then the second tab is the actual numbers. And what could those assumptions be? Well, what quarter do you expect your first revenue, and from which product? If you have multiple products, have you made a split? Like, we think 40% of the sales will come from this, 20% from this, and so on. If you have assumed month-on-month growth, have you just we're assuming 7%? How do you, what are the drivers behind those? Have you benchmarked against other similar businesses, or is that because you have a collaboration that will be kicking in? Then what a lot of people don't think about is seasonality effect. Well, maybe you guys are selling something that will sell a lot more around Black Friday, but the margins will go down because also discounts are expected. So you need to make a sort of modulation where you can put in those factors and it all sums up. And this is what the investors really want to see. They want to see the thinking behind. Think of it a little bit like when you have a case interview, if you've ever been to one. They don't care about just your response. They care about your reasoning behind it. So the same goes for if you're launching in a new market, when you want, and they ask for 3-year projections, which to me, early stage is usually a very big, red alert. Because everyone knows that, the numbers will be wrong if you haven't started your sales yet. They could just as well ask, okay, which year are you intending to enter what market, rather than just the projections for 3 to 5 years, because that may mean that it's the wrong investor for you. And then, of course, look at the business model. So we actually, after I think 2.5 years, I was in a market where things changed every month. New competitors, new price points. We launched a fantastic feature. After 6 weeks, our competitors had copied it. And that was the sort of value drivers. So in SaaS, that's things can change really fast. So what price points can you assume? And is there a change of a business model? Can you sort of go for freemium? So all those things should be in your assumptions. And then all of a sudden, when you think those through, the numbers are just what they are. They just add up. So I think if you do that, and now I think I'm running out of time. So I have one more question that was like common pitfalls that I've observed, but maybe I should skip that.
Yes, leave it, because I think that that's going to be like a general for the three of you.
Yeah.
But thank you for that, Charlotte, for challenging that question as well, because it was very doesn't tell the whole story of like what it means, that journey to fundraising, to be ready to, you know, like what is it that you need to have in your package, what needs that the entrepreneur needs to package, and how do they do it? And yes, and like that thought process behind it is like what is like what is investable, let's say, or what is it up. But okay, let's do this, because we had this, I think we made that shift. Sorry to everyone that we made that shift of like giving a little bit more time to understand your perspectives, the three of you. And we're gonna I'm gonna raise two questions, and I'll give 2 minutes each one of you so you can answer it, thinking of the time. And in the meantime, everyone that has been listening to Petra, Cristina, and Charlotte, if you would like to on the chat. Meanwhile, them speak. After the two questions are done, we're gonna select a couple of questions from the chat. And yes, and that would be how we wrap up our last 10 minutes of the session. So the first question is, because this is about investment ready, is what's one thing you wish like early stage startups, entrepreneurs, or like understood about investment ready? A piece of advice from your experience, like if this would be your number one thing. And red
how much time it takes.
and mistakes. I mean, the most crucial ones, let's say, that how you're saying, like if it's HR, like you need to cut right away, otherwise like it starts drowning everything. So yes, so those common mistakes. First, like what would be like, this is your common mistake, red flag that you need to be aware of, and what is it that you wish early stage startups knew? Who would like to start?
I can start. I would wish
2 minutes. I'll cut you. I'll be a little bold here on the cutting.
to know. Okay, now I got lost. I would wish to have understood the VC journey, the whole game, how it is played. I know that Charlotte tried to explain as much as possible, but now I understand much better. And it's important because most VCs have investors as well. They need to raise funds, and they are accountable to their LPs, which maybe you don't know what it is. Find it out. So you need to understand how the money flows in the VC world, and what your investors need to deliver to their investors. And then you will start understanding the numbers, how they are being played. Another thing I would wish to have known, which investors are relevant for me. And it's extremely hard to find out. We spend a lot of time, even now, finding those who are relevant. But those who are not, it's not only waste of time for you, but also waste of effort, because they will never understand you if they don't understand your business model or your vertical. They will never be the right investors for you. So I would like to have understood how the VC game is played a bit better.
Oh, yes. Thank you for that. Cristina, Charlotte, you would like to?
Yes, I could bring my insights, and these insights are behind the curtain when you are with yourself. And it's about investment readiness has multiple visions. And this, I think, it's the greatest insight, because for me, because readiness is not a checklist here in the outside, it's a living practice. You prepare an idea, you prepare a plan, but most of all, that mindset to deal with the challenges and everything that is unexpected that you couldn't see coming, that brings that courage all at once. So you nurture each vision layer by layer, time after time. And something I would tell I wished someone could tell me, but I'm okay that I discovered that during the journey is that you do not wait for readiness or investment readiness to find you. You become it first. So now probably if I were you, I would be wondering, but Cristina, will you ever stand in front of investors? Of course, yes. And here is why, without a doubt, when the next step in my vision calls for it. And why? Because what I know now is because I've been dealing with all these multiple visions of readiness behind the curtains, that I know that when this time comes, I will be standing in full ownership. And I think both Petra and Charlotte brought this very distinctive part of investment readiness, where you need to not convince only investors in front of you, but you should be convinced about that conviction.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it's the journey around it and introspection and everything. Charlotte, a couple of minutes for your perspective.
The most common mistake I've seen is people thinking that you can fundraise within like a month or two, coming to me saying, oh, we need to find money. We have like 4 more weeks. And I'm like, dude, seriously? Like, it takes a lot longer also if it's an angel round. So start at least preferably 5 months ahead, but minimum 4 months ahead. Because it takes time, no matter how good and fast you are, even if your data room is ready and everything is fixed, it takes time because factors you can't control, people's calendars. And I guess the other thing is I've seen a very clear correlation with a few cases that have failed. I've seen patterns, and that is usually the founders who are not hungry enough. They don't follow up. They, you have a meeting and then they actually think that investors will get back to you. That's not how it works. They're testing you from day one. Are you a salesperson? Can you hustle? Yes or no? So you need to own your conversation. You need that CRM or whatever spreadsheet with all the investor talks you have. You get back to them. You need to ask the question, okay, if you would invest, what is your average ticket size? And you need to get in touch. Are there any questions? And you need to dare to pick up that phone, because email or cold outreach is another thing that I've seen completely not work. People think that you can LinkedIn investors and say, hi, we're raising, here's my pitch deck, this is who I am, here's my Calendly link for a meeting. No, doesn't work that way. And then they come to me and they're super crushed, like, oh, we've emailed 80 investors, no one wants a meeting. And I'm like, you've used the wrong medium. So do your homework on how to fundraise and talk to people who've done it to get the hacks.
Yes, like quit the passive reach out and do that kind of like determined, aggressive.
Warm intros
Yes.
via people who know them.
Yes, thank you for that, Charlotte. I'm gonna let maybe Nina, if you would like to open your mic, and so you can ask the question directly, the question that you had in mind. How to handle. Do you hear us, Nina? I ask to unmute here. We don't hear you. No, we don't hear you. So Nina, she asked, because I wanted her to expand a little bit on the question, how to handle copying of products. I mean, pretty straightforward. Copying of your products, if someone is copying your product. Is that what you mean?
I can go on that because it's happened to me.
Yes.
It's happened in different, actually we found, because it was a software product in English, we found one competitor in Japan who had pretty much studied our entire layout and copied it and translated it to Japanese. And we found other competitors copying our features. Now, from a legal perspective, there's very little you can do. You can secure a trademark, and you can You can sort of buy your brand name. You can register it in the US, which takes 2 years, and a US attorney. So EU IPO here in EU is very straightforward compared to the US. But we had done all of that. What you can do is basically send an evil email sent by a lawyer saying, you know, we have our eyes on you. But when it comes to software, you can't patent design, for instance, software design, which it happened to us a bunch of times. So we took the approach, right or wrong, because most of the users or customers that were shopping for a solution, they compared us to other solutions out there. So whenever we had demo and intro calls, we actually started telling them what was in the product pipeline that wasn't released yet. And we sort of were a step ahead a lot of times. So we had released the coffee button first, where the avatar would move into the kitchen and see if someone else virtually was up for a coffee. We had released guided meditation rooms once per week for all employees globally who wanted to have a 10-minute guided meditation. All of a sudden that showed up in our competitors. This was all our ideas. We know it. But you know, you can't run the feature race in software. You can't even run the design race. You have to run different races. And in our case, it was always co-creating with customers, finding their pain points, never asking them what they wanted as a solution. They don't know that themselves. And if they know it, you know, it's like asking a horse and carriage, what do you need? I need a faster horse. They didn't know they needed a car, but understand what is their real pain point. Okay, we need to get from A to B faster. Okay, how can we do that? And then you go back to your skilled developers if you are running a tech company, because developers are creative people, and you solve the problem. And you try to be one step ahead and have really strong customer relationships. Then you can even charge more if your relationships are strong. So as a CEO, you always need to call your customers. I called customers every week for 5 years.
So it's not only knowing them, but building that relationship with different, however that means, in terms of what kind of communications you constantly have, frequencies, and those checkpoints. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Petra and Cristina and Charlotte. We started the session a little bit late. Apologize about that. I don't know if someone else would have a question. If you would like to write it in the chat. Otherwise, we will send everyone a follow-up email with Cristina's, Petra's, and Charlotte's information. So if you would like to connect with them. And yes, I mean, and I'm super thankful for the three of you that you shared your experiences, your perspectives. It was very well, how do you say, like landed to what it means to be investment ready, but from the different angles and just like packaging everything. So there's a lot of things. One, like bottom line, you need to be aware of a lot of things and always be on your A game. Like you are the one, if you are the one interested to ask people for money, or if you want people to attract people, you are the one that needs to make that first step to be on top of it, to be doing the reach outs and networking, and how you're suggesting, Charlotte, having that also mapping out through CRMs, through through your Excel spreadsheets, to be very well organized as well with your product, and be on top of it, and always informing yourself and trying to work on it, how you were mentioning, Petra, and doing that introspection as well, like with you as well. If you are the one that wants this, how bad you want it as well, and investors can smell as well that. So thank you so much, the three of you, and everyone that connected. Now you're gonna head up for some lunch time, I assume, and join us if you would like. Some of you sign up as well for tomorrow, for tomorrow's webinar as well. We're gonna be speaking about financing, all the different kinds of financing that is out there, like public microfinancing. We're gonna have Microfonden with us, Ilva from Microfonden. Someone that used to work in the innovation office from Vinnova, Regina Sommer, is going to be joining us, and we're going to have an angel investor, Karin Björken. She's our board member here at Impact Hub Stockholm. So also a bit another angle for what it means of this ecosystem of investment and entrepreneurship and how to navigate it. Thank you so much, everyone. And see you and enjoy your summer, everyone. Yes.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your question, Nina. Don't worry. We understand sometimes it happens.